21 is for fire. Chopsticks scuffled, the ladle scraped against the bottom of the pot, people shifted, but aside from the occasional "can you pass the pot?", no one was particularly talkative. For a dinner party of 11, it was quiet around the table. Maybe everyone was tired. Team 10 had guarded Tazana at the bridge all day, while Team 7 stayed in town, tracking after gold and listening to news about Gato's organization, the sort of work that requires wits more than brawl. But in their case, it was weirdly tense. Even Sasuke and Naruto's bickering had lulled into short grunts. Lethargy played a part in the subdued atmosphere, but Haruhi assumed her mill shenanigans caused some of this tension too. Tsunami had made them fish too, steam drifting from the pot, fogging the windows and carrying the warm, simple smell of fish and rice, with a trace of seaweed salt lingering in the air. Between bites of fish stew, Asuma-sensei evaluated Haruhi from across the table, and Kakashi-sensei had been keeping her on a short leash since the reparo. While Naruto and Sasuke were giving some lighter duties, Haruhi had been sidelined by their sensei because, "Since you messed with your chakra fixing the mill, it looks like you're compromised. Again." Tazana's grandson Inari was being grumpy, but she was coming to expect that of him. She'd yet to see the kid do much but mope. As for the rest, Haruhi might be imagining it, but she couldn't shake the feeling Shikamaru was avoiding her. It was hard to catch him at all. He'd never really looked at her much before, but now it seemed intentional, not just indifference. Though Haruhi wasn't the only one Shikamaru eluded. Ino was staring at him, intently. She blinked once, twice, like some sort of code. But Tanara kept his head down, so fixated on his food it was making Choji look like he wasn't hungry. Was Ino mad at him? Ino was usually not shy about voicing her grievances, but even she was respecting the table tension. Shikamaru shot Ino a warning look. She only smiled, sharp, pointed, and flicked her gaze towards Haruhi, which earned her a huff. Oh no, he's definitely avoiding her. Haruhi must have sounded like a nutter. Haruhi couldn't even blame him. Their talk hadn't gone well. For a moment there, Haruhi almost thought she was on the right track and Shikamaru might be serious. So much tracked. He acted older than he was born into a clan that could handle spiritual energy, his reaction to magic was fair, with no ridicule or treating it as a joke, and Shikamaru complained as much about his mother as Sirius used to. But, well, she was leaning more towards no now. Maybe that's just who he is. But at the time, getting carried away, trying to make the puzzle pieces fit, might have made Haruhi sound just a little insane. She cringed. Her chopsticks paused midair at the memory. She needed to find a better way to ask. Haruhi had baffled two suspects with her reincarnation questions, towing the line of sounding balmy. But how to ask exactly? Chakra could split mountains, but the moment she asked about reincarnated souls, people acted like she was the crazy one. Though that was nothing new. The hassle of believing and looking for magic was the risk of being judged a little mad in the eyes of the skeptics. And what was the alternative? Give up on Sirius? Even if she could think of better ways now, Haruhi couldn't change what she'd said and done. Yet how was she supposed to explain that to Shikamaru? The truth might very well make him go from suspecting she was mad to being sure of it. There was no proof. Haruhi couldn't show Shikamaru her soul and prove this wasn't the first body it was born into. How did one even begin to do that? Outside the general, "Trust me mate, I'm not crazy, I'm reborn." Haruhi couldn't cast a spell for that like she could demonstrate magic. Though, that, in reality, was what bothered her more. Sasuke's silence was not what she'd hoped for. She could only guess Shikamaru was avoiding her, but she was sure her cousin was. Haruhi had shown him magic, but Sasuke's reaction was, well, not unexpected. Withdrawing was his go-to method for anything even the slightest emotionally complex. But she'd hoped for something. Maybe it'd been too much to hope for a "so you really are a witch." Though was it really too much to ask for something as straightforward as "this is not something I can explain. Maybe there is something to magic." But what if it was? Sasuke wasn't outright avoiding her, but he was dodging the topic. Much like with Sensei's Sharingan, Sasuke didn't seem keen for any open magic discussion either, as if he pretending all was normal would make it normal. Though maybe it wasn't all about her either. Sasuke was still glued to Naruto while trying to complete a challenging mission. While the others were right to walk on eggshells, maybe this wasn't really the time and place for deeper talk about magic and chakra or even Sharingan stuff. Naruto slurped up the last of his warm broth and sighed contentedly. "Pass the pot," he pointed. Haruhi was closest and pushed it over. "Here." Naruto beamed and began filling his fourth bowl. "Thanks, Haruhi." At least Naruto wasn't acting weird. "The miller is back. He was so flummoxed," Tsunami said after dinner. She'd sent her son to get ready for bed while the rest remained downstairs. Ino was helping Tsunami do the dishes, while Haruhi and Choji cleared the table. Tazuna laughed. "You saw him, Tsunami?" "I did, father. He was trying to get started since it really looks like everything is in order now. I can't fathom it. It's a gift. And was the talk of the town this afternoon." Hearing Tsunami talk about a fixed mill like it was a blessing, that was different. A small, warm pulse spread through Haruhi's chest, and suddenly all the other things didn't seem as serious anymore. Even with the chakra backlash, even with Kakashi's watchful eye and Sasuke dodging, Haruhi couldn't bring herself to regret it. People were hopeful, and Haruhi had helped do that. Use her magic with purpose, not for combat or gain, or even really for power. Not a hurtful power anyway. No, just magic used for normal stuff. For something good, like at Hogwarts. And maybe that's how it was supposed to be. Hogwarts had been about enchanting self-playing flutes, transfiguring tea kettles into turtles, and changing softballs into bubbles for fun. Magic was used to ease way of life and bring wonders into the mundane. It was about magic in daily life, in a civilian life. Magic was a more whimsical energy which she kept trying to treat like chakra, when it just wasn't. And really, did that have to be a bad thing? Even now, Haruhi wasn't sure. She tried to be fair about it, but it wasn't easy. Magic granted Haruhi this amazing potential, but it wasn't abilities or strength or skill that said the most about a person. It was, as Dumbledore would say, their choices. How she used magic was far more telling than possessing it. The part of her born a ninja in the Uchiha clan, trained from diapers to weaponize everything at her disposal, demanded to utilize it for combat. It was almost idiotic not to. Because who else could counter a stupefy spell when they couldn't cast Renervate to undo it? Who else could undo a leg locker spell without being able to use Finite? They weren't complicated spells, simple even. But when most, maybe everyone else, had no magic to undo it, simple might be all she needed. Haruhi had grumbled over the possibilities during the many frustrated nights of spellcasting failures. Her imagination running wild considering all the things she'd do when she overcame her balance issue. Shifting between being breathless with the potential of what she might be able to do, to the point it was almost scary. That was the ninja talking, strategizing. But the other side, the witch and the potter, took pause. Did everything have to be honed to hurt? Could this just be good? Were ninja allowed to do that? One thing was Itachi, but he was always an exception. But in general, would a spell used to kill Zabuza feel as gratifying as using it to fix that mill? Or was that something Voldemort would do? What did it make Haruhi now to feel it was justified, needed? Yet Haruhi couldn't fool herself. She was born to be a ninja. But what about her witch side? Was she still a witch if she used magic for ninja work? Was she a ninja? Was it either or? Or could Haruhi be a teenage mutant ninja witch? Teenage Mutant Ninja Witch! Her brain unhelpfully supplied an old cartoon theme she'd heard from Dudley's telly, drifting through her cupboard door from the living room in the evenings. Naruto glanced over curiously, which is when Haruhi realized she was humming the jingle under her breath. Things are looking up, aren't they? Tazuna said. Maybe now that they see matters can go our way too, more will come to work on the bridge. It's almost done, but more hands will get us there in no time. Soon we won't be reliant on Kato's ships anymore, and we can plan the next harvest with the mill working in mind. We had to do it by hand last year, but that's an emergency solution. We just couldn't get enough. I really hope our fortune holds. Tsunami smiled at her dad. Tazuna hummed agreeable. Who knows? Maybe those evil ninjas will give up and go away too. He turned to Kakashi-sensei. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like they've done that. Sensei shook his head. While Team 10 had been at the bridge, Haruhi's team, focused on retrieving the statue, had located Gato's den. It wasn't even hidden. A steady stream of thugs came and went from the large building on the luxury property that also received all the shipments. It wasn't exactly covert, but that didn't mean approaching it was without risk. There were ninjas inside. Kakashi-sensei seemed to have several ideas of how to sneak in and steal back the golden teddy bear, and if Haruhi was to guess, very few of them involved Genin. It was a possibility, Kakashi-sensei said. From what Ino observed today, and from what I've heard too, the gold Zabuza's accomplice stole from us is worth far more than whatever Gato is paying him. And speaking of the assistant, he's a problem too. How so? Asuma-sensei asked. The thugs sound as scared of him as they are of Zabuza, far more than they are of the Demon Brothers. It's this fourth member of the Mist group, Haku. He's dangerous. From the way he's been avoided, it sounds like our gold thief might very well be another Jonin-level threat. Oh. Tazuna dragged a hand through his hair, eyes darting towards his daughter. It couldn't be easy, being a civilian with threats so vastly out of his league hanging over his head. He really was doomed. The only thing keeping Tazuna's head on his shoulders was them, and getting a Konoha team to help had been a leap of faith too. To travel to a foreign land and put his trust in mercenaries for hire? Even sweating, graying and drinking, he kept building that bridge under the threat to him and his family, putting it all at risk for hope of better days to come. Tazuna would be a Gryffindor, Haruhi decided. Damn. Asuma folded his arms. That complicates things. 2 Jonin and 2 Chunin from Hidden Mist against 2 Jonin and 6 Genin. He leant back in his chair, his eyes glancing from his students to Team 7. I've been up against worse odds, but still, it depends. Hidden Mist. Haruhi tried rewinding her memory to the few facts she knew. She doubted she knew anything the teachers didn't, but just in case. Zabuza used mist, water jutsu, and of course his sword. The Demon Brothers' poison stuff, all of it is very typical Hidden Mist ninjutsu. They are, Asuma-sensei said slowly. But how do you know that? I read it, Haruhi said, struggling to bring up more than the broad strokes. But, I wish I had Shisui's journals right now. Sasuke arched a brow. Why? Shisui took missions in the Land of Water and kept journals, remember? Some of those are pretty detailed. He grunted. Why didn't you read them with the Sharingan on? Haruhi paused then. Oh, bollocks! Why didn't I? She'd read them during the last year of the academy, but hadn't thought to reread them with the perfect recollection granted by her Sharingan. Sasuke shrugged in a wordless, then it's your fault for not remembering. I remember some of it. It was Shisui's missions in Hidden Mist that gave him his moniker Shunshi no Shisui. It's an island like this one, and talked about using genjutsu as a lure. He called it fishing in the mist, to get mist ninjas away from the ocean. It was dangerous to challenge them near water, so he drew some maps for choke points. Haruhi listed off, but noticing their drifting attention, she quickly added, not that it's very useful with maps of hidden mist when we're in the land of waves anyway. So I guess body flicker speed works well against them? Since he used it so much over there the nickname stuck? The type of speed Shisui implemented isn't possible for most to obtain. Asuma-sensei hummed. He used the Sharingan to predict clear paths and positions, which he then made more confusing by combining it with illusions. The only person I've ever seen faster than him was Minato-sama. Haruhi straightened, warmth sparking in her chest. Yeah, that was her brother. He'd been amazing. She focused on Asuma-sensei, drinking up every tidbit from this unexpected source. Us with normal eyes can use the body flicker, Asuma-sensei remarked. But not like some Uchiha could. The Sharingan allows you to use the body flicker without crashing into trees or rocks or hurting yourself. And Shisui combined that nightmarish speed with clones. Clones? Shadow clones? Naruto exclaimed. Asuma shrugged. I don't know. Maybe they were illusions. Or both. You knew Shisui, Asuma-sensei? Haruhi asked. Yes, Asuma-sensei smiled. He was getting teammates with my cousin, and we went on a few missions together. He was a good one. So fast too. Though I see that's a family trait. Who's Shis? Ino began, but Sasuke leaned forward, cutting her off. Do you remember Shisui mentioning anything about Zabuza in those journals? He asked, bringing the topic back on track. Shisui was active in Mist, what, 5 to 8 years ago? Zabuza's the right age. They could have clashed. Haruhi frowned. I don't think so. He took notes about the 7 swordsmen of the mist, but if he wrote about Zabuza, I don't remember it. And this Haku person? Sasuke asked. When Haruhi shook her head, he glanced to the Jonin. And you don't know anything about him either? No, Kakashi-sensei said. I've heard of the other 3, but Haku's a complete unknown. Doesn't matter what they are, Naruto swore. I'm ready. I'll do better next time and show them if they try anything. Asuma-sensei grimaced, and instead of taking heart from that declaration, turned to Kakashi. I don't think the genin should wander around alone anymore. Kakashi-sensei cocked his head, seeming like he might disagree, but... They're just kids, Kakashi, he insisted. Then, as if the plea to their age made zero difference in Kakashi-sensei's expression, Asuma added, Rookies. Fine. We'll arrange a buddy program. How strict is this rule? Am I allowed outside for fresh air without a chaperone? Haruhi glanced meaningfully at Naruto and Sasuke. Or do I need to tie myself to someone too? A ripple of stifled snickering broke around the room, except Shikamaru, who sunk very low in his seat. Sure. Asuma-sensei waved at her to go. But don't leave Tazuna's property. Haruhi excused herself as Naruto said, I can't wait! This time tomorrow will be free, and then those filthy thieves will get what's coming for them. I'll give them a taste of the Uzumaki Naruto barrage! Haruhi slipped out the door and into the cool night. The dark silence was welcoming after the crowded house, and she headed down the yard towards the dark, rustling ocean. The wind had picked up, blowing away the misty day. She'd barely taken 3 steps towards the shore when a voice drifted out of the dark. Fresh air helps. Haruhi startled. Half in shadow and unreadable, Kakashi Sensei was leaning against the porch railing like he'd been there for hours. Of course he was. You've had a productive day. Mm-hmm. She turned back towards the water, hoping that would be the end of it. Kakashi didn't move. The mill, for example. Haruhi's shoulders tightened. It needed fixing. Quite the feat. His tone was mild and conversational. She didn't answer. Kakashi let the silence stretch. Not uncomfortable, just waiting. He was good at that, but Haruhi was no novice at the waiting game either. She grew up in a cupboard in one life, and with Sasuke in her second. He wasn't here to chit-chat, but if he wanted to know something specific, he had to actually ask, as Haruhi wouldn't divulge before she must. Most genin, he said eventually, don't repair machinery with unheard of ninjutsu. She shrugged. It worked. It did. Spectacularly, he said then, lightly. But I've never seen a Sharingan do that. Haruhi turned from the water, arms crossed. Is that so? Sensei tilted his head, studying her with that maddening calm of his. The Sharingan is an old bloodline, he said, as if they were discussing weather patterns. Some say exaggerated. Others say it's not exaggerated enough. Haruhi's jaw tightened. What was with the vagueness? As if the Sharingan in his socket couldn't tell him the answer to which was true. Yours is uneven, he went on. Not unheard of. I do recall police officers with different tomoe patterns, usually early stages, where one side developed an extra tomoe faster than the other, and there was a catch-up period. You're the first I've seen with a 1-3 difference though. His voice stayed mildly informative, but Haruhi couldn't help but think, Kakashi was paying attention to the tomoe patterns of Uchiha members? Why exactly? Was he just curious? Or was it because he'd been wanting one of those eyes for himself? If Sensei noticed her coldness, he didn't let it show. Maybe it's your old injuries, or perhaps it's just you. Hard to know. At any rate, there's an explanation for that. What I don't have an explanation for is what you did with that mill. She arched her brow. You're the one who said that there were ninjas with repair jutsu. Sensei scratched his chin. I was talking of the wood release, Haruhi. Last I checked, that's not part of the Uchiha bloodline. Infamously so. From what I could tell, you caused it with your eyes, but you struggled with your chakra afterwards. Whatever that jutsu is, it clearly took a lot of you. Is it the same jutsu you used during the Zabuza battle? Your chakra was off after that too. Haruhi closed her eyes and inhaled deeply. Okay, so he hadn't missed anything at all. You're very observant, Sensei. It's part of the job. Then why pretend you're not? Ma. Kakashi's eye curved in a smile. Because that's part of the job too. The ocean rustled below them, and for a moment Haruhi thought he might leave it at that. But Kakashi shifted his weight, the casualness turning into something more precise. Haruhi, whatever you did today wasn't wood release. I'm not asking you to tell me everything, he said, voice steady. But I need to know if it's something related to your bloodline or not. If you're inventing ninjutsu, bloodline ninjutsu, hidden jutsu, or some sort of kinjutsu, whatever it is, it can be dangerous, and I need to know you're doing it safely. I'm not being reckless. Thanks to some unfinished jutsu, you gave yourself a chakra blockage in a battle. You took a chance that backfired. That is reckless. Take better care. You don't get to use it in combat before it's better developed, before we can rely on that jutsu not endangering yourself or the team. I already figured that out. Haruhi flushed. That's why I picked the mill instead, on that second go. Because repairing the wave mill wasn't in the middle of combat, and she'd known, or at least assumed, she'd have sufficient cooldown time afterwards to get her chakra back under control. At least that's something. Haruhi hesitated, fingers tapping against her thigh before she admitted, I guess it's a jutsu I'm working on. You cast it with your eyes, right? But your Sharingan shuts off after use. Something disrupts. It's not the eyes that are hurt, but it's where it's most visible. The eyes are the most direct pathway to the spirit. Haruhi told him, pushing past the slight unease notched in her stomach by how much Sensei had noticed. Eyes are the window to the soul. With or without a Sharingan, that seemed to be true. She could try channeling magic through her hands, her legs, somewhere else, but those would be detours. Have you considered that using your eyes for experimental ninjutsu is your problem? That the imbalance in your chakra from doing that is the reason your tomoe are uneven? That you should have free tomoe in both, but whatever you're doing is preventing one eye from developing. Haruhi opened her mouth, shut it, blinked, and even without saying anything, the answer was probably plain on her face. No, not really. Kakashi-sensei sighed. This is why I need to know more. It's a jutsu built of yin release? Sort of. In many ways, it wasn't wrong to put it that way. Magic and yin release drew on the same fuel, but Haruhi would never call magic yin release. Not any more than she'd call a telly a toaster, despite both running off electricity. But did she need to make it more complicated? It's not easy, and though it pulls on my spirit too, it messes with my yin release. I'm very aware of that part, it's not a new problem. But Sasuke's helped me too. I did? Haruhi startled at the sound of her cousin's voice sneaking up behind her. Whirling around, she glimpsed Choji and Asuma through the window, but Sasuke and Naruto had slipped outside, coming around the house without her noticing a thing. Kakashi wasn't surprised at all. Since when could you two be quiet? Haruhi demanded. And why use it against me? Naruto laughed, but Sasuke was intent on Sensei. What were you talking of exactly? The Sharingan. Oh, great! Naruto sighed in relief. We don't have to be weird about it anymore. A shiver went down her spine. Kakashi's eye narrowed, but Naruto just kept talking. I'm glad you cleared things up. Since you haven't set him on fire, I guess it was fine and Sensei didn't steal a Sharingan from your family. Phew, that would have been awkward, eh? 3/4 of Team 7 went rigid, and one sunny blonde just kept beaming. Haruhi groaned. I wasn't. Do you ever think? No! Kakashi said strongly, head whipping between Sasuke and Haruhi. We were actually talking of my Sharingan. Haruhi sighed heavily. Uh-oh. Naruto's face fell. So, not his? Sorry. I told you to shut up about that. Sasuke was fuming, but the cat was out of the bag now. Don't, she told Sasuke. If he didn't bring it up, I probably would. Sasuke's head snapped to Haruhi, his mouth in a tight line, glaring so hard he seemed torn between the urge to shut her up and morbid curiosity for answers. Well? Haruhi faced the Jonin. How do you have a Sharingan? You're not an Uchiha. I didn't steal this, he said firmly. Then why didn't you tell us? I didn't tell you because it wasn't relevant to the mission, and because it's complicated. Sensei reached up, lifting his headband with a smooth, practiced motion to reveal the Sharingan. But that's not what she noticed first. Kakashi-sensei had a scar too. carved in a brutal line from his forehead down over his left eye, disappearing into his mask. It was old now, but Haruhi knew a thing or two about scars. That had been a severe head wound. Not as deep as hers, but he should be half blind. At least until he found a replacement. But when? Where? If the unspoken apprehension between her and Sasuke turned out to be valid, days of nagging suspicion was about to boil into true anger. Whose eye had he taken? "When did you get that eye?" she asked, barely able to keep her voice calm. "It wasn't when you think it was. It was during the Third War, and it was no secret. Sasuke, your father knew. All the Uchiha used to know." The reaction was instantaneous. The tight knot in her stomach unraveled. Her shoulders sagged as the tension ebbed out despite herself. "Oh," Sasuke murmured, the relief audible even to her ears. "Then who had that eye originally?" he asked. "My Genin teammate, Uchiha Obito," Sensei said. "He died a hero near the end of the Third War, which is when he gave me this." He tapped the skin under his red eye. She might have heard the name Obito, but never met him. Haruhi was born just after the First War ended. She'd likely missed Obito by a few months. "Uchiha Obito," Sasuke said the name slowly. "He was our first cousin once removed." Haruhi snorted. "You memorized the family tree?" "Yeah, at least one of us knows when it comes in handy to use their Sharingan." Sasuke's eyes turned red like a taunt. "I recorded the available registers." Those weren't perfect. There were gaps and unexplained connections. But better than what Haruhi could do. "He's a first cousin once removed from both of us?" she asked, clarifying if Sasuke meant their mother's side. "Yes." Kakashi Sensei let the quiet settle, the wind tugging at his hair. "Alright, is this why you kids have been so quiet? I thought..." He trailed off, not sharing what he'd thought. He shook his head and next his usual lazy drawl was back. "Now that we clarified that bit, I need your word, Haruhi, about that jutsu of yours. It's not ready. It's not safe." The ease of a moment before fell away, and Haruhi squirmed, becoming very uncomfortable that Sasuke was right there, hearing this. "I'm not going to give my word. Sorry, but I won't." Kakashi Sensei paused, something firmer seeping into his tone. "Now, you know it can backfire, and you're a sensible Kunoichi, Haruhi." "What? Where did he get that impression from? Maybe she gave him too much credit earlier." "You should only train that Kinjutsu under supervision, potentially with a medic on standby, and won't think of using it in battle again. Take it from me. I once created jutsu beyond my capabilities too. It didn't go well." "But this is probably not something that can be solved in a risk-free way. I started out that way and honestly, it only got me so far. It didn't work for anything real," Haruhi protested. "Real experience in the field has gotten me a lot further than playing it safe did." "Why don't you do it now then?" Naruto suggested, for once falling into the role of mediator. "It's not a battle, Sensei can supervise and there's no problem if you're a little winded after. All we have left to do today is go to bed." "Now?" Haruhi wasn't so sure. Sensei hummed agreeable. "That's not a bad idea. I want to see what you do with this." He pointed at his red eye. It rotated lazily. "Do you need something to fix?" Naruto bent down after his stick and whacked it hard, breaking it in two with a snap. He held it up in front of Haruhi's face, beaming. "Here, fix this." Haruhi hesitantly took the pieces. They were about wand length. "You want me to make myself sick to fix a broken stick?" So it costs you, Sasuke said knowingly, something about his tone irking her. All jutsu has a cost, she said, her tone on the defensive side. Be it chakra or energy. But those are not such severe costs you're useless in a fight, so much it hurts you. Haruhi glanced away from her cousin to focus on something less aggravating, like the Dark Horizon. What spell should she use? What could be useful enough it'd shut Sasuke up? He already saw Rapero and that hadn't worked. The tickling charm? Orchideus? No, Sasuke wouldn't be any more likely to change his tune even with an offering of magical orchids. A transfiguration? Colovaria to mute Naruto's orange jumpsuit a little? That'd do them all a service. The idea came to her then. It was a big gamble, but it'd show Sasuke how useful even simple spells were. She could solve everything, their whole mission, without anyone being at risk, with just one simple spell. Knowing this might be pushing it, Haruhi gathered herself. She didn't know where to aim, but focused all the same. Akio Golden Teddy Bear Statue. The spell shot out, invisible to Naruto, but both Sasuke and Sensei registered the spell's trajectory with their Sharingan, their eyes following the path. The backlash hit and Haruhi swallowed down bile, her hands getting clammy from the great unbalance coiling in her stomach. They stood with bated breath, the anticipation in her stomach almost winning over the chakra uproar. She listened keenly for a sound, squinting into the horizon like a seeker after a glint of gold in the darkness. Nothing's happening, Naruto pointed out the obvious. Thanks, I hadn't noticed. Haruhi cursed under her breath. Was it because Haruhi didn't know where it was? Was it too far away? It hadn't worked? She'd gambled big and lost, leaving her with nothing. The sting of regret mingled with embarrassed unease. At Hogwarts, she could have summoned it from afar, but that was with a wand. The spells she'd succeeded at before now had been targeted at things within her line of sight. For all she knew, visibility was a hard limit when abusing her eyes as a magical conduit. Great. Why hadn't she realized that 5 seconds ago before making a fool of herself in front of Sasuke? When for once, Kakashi Sensei was almost acting like a teacher, one who had a Sharingan and actually understood how the bloodline worked. Closing her eyes to give them rest, Haruhi put her hands on her hips and breathed slow. Under her lids her eyes felt sharp, dry and prickling, a pulse that wouldn't settle. She shouldn't have tried that. You did something, Kakashi Sensei pondered, head tilted. What an interesting jutsu name. You could give my sensei's sense of naming a run for its money with that one. Was that good or not? Haruhi couldn't tell. And it didn't read quite like ninjutsu, or genjutsu. Is it a mutation of your Sharingan? Sensei trailed off thoughtful, while the heaviness of what he left unsaid was what she'd prefer to know. It was useless. Sasuke huffed and reached over, feeling her forehead as if for a fever. You're clammy. Figures. That block always made you weak. We spent the last year training, daily, for you to remove that green block so you could access your Sharingan. And now you'll risk it all, and for what? For real? What about for Tazuna? Haruhi frowned. All those people who depend on the mill. I don't know, what about helping out when you know you can? Really? Or were you just showing off? Do you think that thing makes you special or something? Naruto cocked his head. I think it does, Naruto stated in a serious tone, maybe not catching on to Sasuke's mocking rhetorical question, or maybe because of it. Sasuke gave him such an irritated look. What? It does! Naruto doubled down. That last one might have failed, but how do we fix that mill when no one else could? Isn't it the whole deal with specialness or whatever? Doing what others can't. Team 10 couldn't. You couldn't.
I couldn't. Sensei couldn't. But she did. And now Tazuna and everyone here can produce more food stuff. Choji said so. It was a really cool spell and she helped a lot of people. So what if it makes her special? What's your problem? Stay out of it, Naruto. I don't need yours or anyone's opinion. You bastard! You really need to be the most special everywhere? Haruhi placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder. Touched he'd defend her, even if it made Sasuke's rejection sting more. Why couldn't Sasuke be more like Naruto? And yet, Naruto didn't have it quite correct. That's not what he meant. Haruhi's stomach was in knots. Sasuke scoffed. No, but I'm not going through that hospital nightmare twice. What? Haruhi stuttered, off-balanced, becoming strangely lightheaded and hot at the same time. Almost like a flame was stirring in her chest she was struggling to keep quenched. You didn't, Haruhi reminded him. I did. Sasuke's eyes narrowed. Shiho helped me in the hospital, she specified. Momo did. They were there, usually daily, while you were gone. Sure, he stopped by every couple of weeks, and then he left again. Always training, always running. Haruhi hadn't expected him to fix her. She never demanded that. He'd only been 8. But so had she. And this was too much. He didn't get to take some imagined credit for the bare minimum of bi-weekly check-ins. Sasuke swallowed. Was it Shiho who helped you with this block? With getting your Sharingan? No, it was me. Exactly! So why did you get it, Sasuke? It wasn't useless. She pushed back. The green was never just some chakra blockage stopping my Sharingan. It can be used for something. It made that mill work again, and it can do so much more. Yeah, like harm you, Sasuke scoffed. Your Sharingan suffers every time you use that thing, so maybe stop before it really does destroy your eyes. It won't. Then turn your Sharingan on right now, he challenged. Come on, do it. Her fists tightened until the knuckles went white, but when Haruhi couldn't, Sasuke's jaw clenched. When are you going to face reality, Haruhi? He asked. It's got nothing to do with the green, magic, or whatever you want to call it. When you know this is... What? She murmured. It wasn't a question, a dare. And the brat took it. When all that stuff is just brain damage he caused, you know it. It was like being plunged into fire, but somehow Sasuke's words burned so much worse than any flame. Naruto flinched like he'd been set up too. Brain damage. That's what he called her magic. What he called her. Wow. That was Dursley levels. She'd choose fire over this. Before, you'd never damage your Sharingan for some jutsu tricks. You haven't been the same since that night. What he did, it changed you. Ha! She laughed bitterly, airily. She didn't know what else to do. Years of holding back to be mindful of him. But Haruhi'd been the one injured. She'd been the one in the hospital, while Sasuke was free to run off to train. And now he'd used that against her? She never fought. You want to talk of facing reality? Haruhi spat. Let's be fair about it then. Itachi killed everyone, and you expect me to be unaffected? That's not... Where do you get off? He was staring at something at the core of Haruhi's being, and he knew it. Sasuke, of all people, knew. It was hard to formulate words, and she ended up on angry. It's changed you too! If he wanted to draw blood, she could too. You call me mentally damaged when you can't even say his name! Sasuke's eyes widened, his Sharingan dilating. His discomfort sent a hot sense of victory through her, but it didn't make her feel any better, just angrier. In the past, when she shared and tried to tell him, he called her insane and blew a fit for talking of magic. But even proof wasn't enough. Even after seeing her cast magic, he twisted it into some attention-seeking bragging? And who was he to try talk her out of something because it had risks? Or was it just an excuse? Was Sasuke just angry he couldn't do magic too? Haruhi couldn't put her finger on it. Sasuke looked and acted nothing like Aunt Petunia. But in that moment he sure sounded like her. Kakashi shifted his weight. The subtle tell he was seconds from stepping in. He better not. Even Naruto knew better than to interrupt this. Let's put it all on the table. Should we talk about he who must not be named now? Because it's Itachi, Haruhi said, pronouncing the name, twisting the knife. Itachi, your beloved older brother, who killed our family. Itachi killed our grandmother, aunts, uncles, Taiko, and our baby cousins. Itachi killed your parents. Haruhi, Kakashi Sensei warns, but Haruhi spoke over him, ignoring Naruto's stammering while her voice grew chiller. She was just so angry. Your brother killed my brother, and then Itachi killed me too. I'm finally getting over the setbacks, but that's not good enough. When is it enough? She threw her hands in the air, wanting to set something on fire, to release the pressure. Do I need to skip around like that clueless kid to trust that murderer? Is that what you want? So what have I developed abilities since then? Like you haven't spent every minute you could training too. She took a deep breath. It was all spewing out now. You trained yourself to the bone. It was more important than visiting me in the hospital. And for what? Rookie of the Year? I had to. No one else was going to protect us. It's about protection now? Isn't everything about Itachi? Even this? Because if either of us is a show-off, it's you! Pretending your grades come for free, that your skills aren't something you had to work for. Pretending you're the same level of genius as Itachi, when you know you're not! Sasuke's Sharingan spun. You have no idea. If I wanted this kind of power, I've always had the means to take it. What? That didn't even make sense, because... Ha! You worked for every scrap of strength, just like I do. But you get to work to get stronger and I'm supposed to stop when I'm on the brink of this? Why? Is Naruto right? Can you not handle the competition? Shut up! Then you shut up! Haruhi got in his face. Gods! You used to be able to handle a challenge. You're not a challenge. Sasuke cut through her. You're a liability. A raspy hiss flared up Haruhi's throat, a high-pitched sound of pure frustration. But it was at that moment Kakashi-sensei grabbed her shoulder, pulling her back. That's enough family squabbling. Sensei tried for casual, but the stoniness of his expression was palpable. Naruto had pulled Sasuke back too, forcing a distance between that made the blazing argument plunge. The fire cut off with a gust of waveless winds, and somehow it didn't bring relief. It was cold. Haruhi shook off Sensei's grip just as Sasuke turned on his heel, only to jerk to a stop, having forgotten he was still stuck to Naruto. He made an infuriating growl and harshly tugged Naruto along. The blonde stumbled but followed, casting an uneasy look over his shoulder, apologetic, before her cousin dragged him off into the house. Haruhi was left reeling, chest heaving, the night endless and empty, her head full of noise yet feeling numbingly muted at the same time. How did that escalate so badly? What happened? Her throat felt scraped raw, her eyes burning in a way that had nothing to do with chakra. A curtain moved in the second-story window. She listened as a door slammed inside the house. Naruto's muffled protests followed, and hard footsteps stomped away. She shouldn't have left the dinner table. Shouldn't have gone out. She should have followed the others' example and not pushed. They'd been right. This hadn't been the place for talk of magic, chakra, or Sharingan stuff. Sensei dragged a hand through his hair as he glanced out towards the moonlit ocean, shoulders slumped. Let's call it a night. Haruhi nodded stiffly and made herself walk back towards the house, knowing the night would be a long one. She'd wanted to hurt him. She had. But it didn't feel like victory.